everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. This is episode 105 for the week of December 6, 2020. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by the mukbang aficionado himself, Will. What's up, dude?
What's up, dude? I gotta fix this light because now I'm paranoid that I'm gonna like warp the fucking screen.
Oh man, this is
all right, should be good now.
Yep. So what do you have? Like, you have this ring light, right? Is it clipped to your monitor? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I'll show everybody if I can get it off the fucking blind. All right, this is it.
Wow.
Wow, now you can just see the ring.
Yeah, everything is like so underexposed now except for the light. Like, that's actually really cool. You should do the whole podcast like that.
I know. Dude, this is some weird shit. This is like some Stanley Kubrick, like 2001 Monolith type weird shit.
It really is, man.
So back up, here it goes because I'm paranoid. What's up, dude?
I'm tired, bro. I got home like a little after 4 o'clock. I like slammed in a quick workout and took a shower so that wasn't like sweating on camera, which, you know, it still might happen. Who knows? And here I am. And yeah, how are you?
I'm well, dude. I'm well. I'm actually pretty excited to share some thoughts on a couple things today with you. And yeah, it's Monday. The snow is melting. And here we are back again.
See, that like blows my mind. Like we live, you know, in the same state, about an hour away from each other. You got snow, and where I live, like the grass was kind of covered a little bit, but like not really. Where I work, there was nothing but rain. So
that's Connecticut, dude.
It's so bizarre, dude. It really is.
Because you're in Naugatuck, I'm in Vernon, and we could absolutely have different weather at the same time. Like it could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You've got rain, I've got snow, vice versa.
It's true. It just blows my mind. Nature's amazing.
And we live in such a small state too.
That's the thing. Like if we lived in like, you know, California, like I think that would be a little bit more reasonable. But I just assume that like, you know, the weather where I am is the same everywhere.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. Well, anyway, first of all, thank you everybody for tuning in. You are listening to Will and Drew's Weather Retrospective. We can be found on the web at www.WDGRPodcast.com. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast. Will, how can they find you?
Sure, you can find me at soundcloud.com/Will_gear.
Hit me up on Twitter at ScionStorm. Will, I have not had a chance to check out your video, by the way. I apologize. You just shared a musical creation video with our Discord a couple days ago.
I did. Yes. So I created a new track called Within with a new meditative sound library that I bought, which is pretty cool. And messing around with the sounds, one thing led to another. And what was supposed to be a 10-minute sampling session ended up being an entire track, and ended up being kind of a big hit amongst our circle of friends and some of my personal buddies. And I felt compelled to make a sort of behind the scenes video of the sort of making of it, which is something I've wanted to do anyway, to kind of give people an inside look on my creative process.
I'm looking forward to spending some time with it. You know, I've been waiting for a day off to check it out and listen to the track too. I find that I'm just like, I got so much shit going on when I'm working. Like I come home and then I got stuff to do and I want to like give it my full attention. So I apologize, but I will.
No worries.
I'll be checking it out this week. So
yeah, you're going to want to carve out at least 25 minutes to 30 minutes to enjoy it properly, because it is like a 20-minute video, but it needed to be, because it's hard to sum up what I do in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm looking forward to checking it out, man. So
cool, man. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
So let's just like dive right in. You've beaten The Last Guardian.
I have beaten The Last Cat Dragon. That's something that I can't get out of my head now, ever since we created that episode title.
Tell me about your overall experience with this game.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I've got something kind of surprising to say, and I think it's safe to say this might be a masterpiece of a game.
You know, hold on. Because, like, for the past 2 weeks, you've been, like, throwing this game under the bus.
I have.
What the fuck happened?
Something happened, man. let me rephrase this. It's a flawed masterpiece. And the reason
Okay.
why I say that is kind of something that we've covered already. I complained a lot about the sort of compromising control mechanics and Trico's unresponsiveness to, basically orders and things that I ask him to do. Just kind of like small nuisances, even frame rate issues were kind of a problem.
Hmm.
And those things are still very much there from beginning to end. So they didn't get better. But what I can say is the story got better, the gameplay got better, and my patience grew stronger
Hmm.
for some of those annoyances. So that's what kind of reshaped my feelings about this game.
Interesting. Interesting. So, like, break down the plot. Break down the plot for
Sure.
us.
So we covered a lot of things, right? We covered that this is your protagonist or your main character is a young boy, probably around the age of 10 or 11, somewhere around there,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking after Trico, which is this large cat dragon-like creature.
Mm-hmm.
So in a nutshell, that really is it. You are just nurturing it as you go along. You're fighting off guards that occasionally throw spears at Trico, and you've got to remove them. And you're basically just on this journey together, um, ascending out of this nest.
Mm.
And when I say nest, it's like this beautiful sort of, I don't know what the right word is. It's like this world of
Mm-hmm.
just giant stone structures and buildings, and everything's so majestic looking.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to wonder, what is the purpose of all this? What's the incentive? Why am I helping him? Why is he helping me? Where are we going? What's the whole point of it? And I could probably get into a few spoilers, and maybe I will. So just kind of, warning for anybody listening to this episode, there probably will be a few spoilers. I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to spoil too much, but just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Something might slip, but that is essentially what you're doing. You've been captured by Trico, and basically the summary of the plot here is Trico is part of a gang of these cat dragons, and they have been literally kidnapping young boys and children, and I think other humans as well, from dormitories and orphanages. And I think that's where you come from.
Okay.
And he captures them, and these other Tricos capture you, and they bring you to like this weird bird-like god structure, and they've been sort of swallowing these humans and people and feeding them into this bird-like structure in like the form of a sort of like a encapsulated human in like weird gel. It's
Mm.
fucking really weird, dude. I'm actually still trying to digest the story because I've been watching like a lot of those plot like analysis videos. So
Yeah.
I'm still kind of digesting a lot of stuff. But that is what's been happening, and that's how you got captured. And you develop this bond with Trico because he realizes maybe you aren't worth sacrificing, because that's basically what they've been doing, is sacrificing humans
Okay.
for some godlike reason.
Yeah.
It's a weird power that overtook this land. And like I said rather, still trying to figure all that stuff out because it's kind of weird and complex. But
Mm-hmm.
you get captured by Trico, you create this bond with him, and you're on this journey together to get out of this sanctuary of sorts.
Okay.
And like I said, really marred by horrible controls, frame rate issues, unresponsiveness from Trico. But outside of those things, there's a story to be told here, and it ended up being pretty tremendous.
This is
And
not
it's
what
all based.
I wouldn't have expected any of that.
Yeah, not to interrupt, but it's all based on this incredible bond that forms between the two of you. And early on into the process, like I said on previous episodes, I was really kind of growing tired of this incentiveless bond and not really understanding where it was going.
Yeah.
And then also dealing with those horrible controls, and again the lack of responsiveness from Trico, which is just really quite maddening, and it was destroying everything else that was good about the game for me.
Mm.
But I'm glad that I got past that, and I can promise you the more you get into the game, the more the plot unfolds, and there's some cutscenes that really open up a lot of doors to unanswered questions. So I was very pleased to witness that.
Interesting. Interesting. So, you've talked about the gameplay being kind of frustrating. Let's talk about what didn't work, and then what ultimately did?
Yeah. So what did work was, gosh, I feel like I want to say nothing. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I recognize that there's this symbiotic relationship between you and Trico, and they
Yeah.
designed Trico in such a way that he acts, like I said on previous episodes, like a newly trained dog. You know, it's not going to respond to sit and stand when you want it to. So it requires multiple efforts to get that to happen. But goddamn, dude, do I just want him to obey me? Like, they should have just hired like Caesar Milan to, you know, while developing Trico, like the dog whisperer,
Yeah.
because something was just not adding up. But they did it. I just wish that it was done a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I wish the gameplay was a little bit more polished, because if the boy was more responsive and didn't continually trip over himself, and when you hit buttons, like, he won't climb a ladder. I literally was like, at the point, even towards the end of the game when it was getting better, I was like, I cannot wait for this fucking game to end. And then when the last cutscene began, all of those like horrible thoughts just melted away, and I fell in love with the story, and I fell in love with the ending. And I thought to myself, wow, like, I'm gonna have to take like a day to digest this. And I'm glad I did, because pretty much all of today I couldn't stop thinking about the game, Drew.
Really?
Yeah,
So,
it's that powerful of a story. Like, I'm actually upset about something that happens at the end, which I may reveal on the show. But
yeah. I mean, like, what about that cutscene like resonated so much with you? Like,
it was just beautifully done.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do they like bring together all of these like vague plot lines in like just one cutscene? Is that kind of what happens?
More or less, yeah. And
Huh.
I'm glad they did, because throughout the game I really thought that I was not paying attention, or I was missing something, because I was like, man, I read like a synopsis on Wikipedia, and I read something that doesn't happen until the end of the game, so it was sort of a spoiler, but not. And I was like, I don't remember this, and it turned out it's because it didn't happen. It didn't happen until later on in the game. So everything made so much more sense once some of these later on cutscenes happened and took place. I was able to say, oh, now I get it. I understand the bond now, and I understand like what these barrels were that I was feeding Trico. And it's pretty like eye-opening. It's like a huge twist that you would expect in a show like Breaking Bad, like where you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
like jaw on the floor, like, oh, now I get it kind of reaction.
Interesting.
But yeah, the cutscenes were, I don't know, they were just a work of art, man. I can't explain it. The guy that created Shadow of the Colossus and Eco in this game, he has a very specific way of storytelling, and I'm learning about it. And it's done in a very simplistic way, but it's done through motion, and it's done with very little dialogue. And it's pretty powerful stuff, man. I can't believe that I'm sitting there thinking like, I am so close to finishing this horrible game. And then all of this happened, and I was just like, wait a second, man, I can put all this aside, because now that this happened, this game is a 9 out of 10. I wouldn't give it a 10
Yeah.
out of 10. I'm going to give it a solid 9 now.
Yeah, this is a lot for me to take in, because it's a sharp left turn from where you've
Huge
been.
turn of events.
And it's rare for a game to do that, even with a powerful ending.
Very rare. And that's what took me by surprise, dude. I'm telling you, even the gameplay towards the end started getting better, because Trico was learning more abilities, and we were able to do things that we weren't able to do before. So it kind of cut down on the tediousness of certain tasks. So I was very thankful for that. And everything just started gelling together. And eventually I started to forget about some of those bad controls and just bad mechanics of the game. I mean, they were still very much there, like, don't get me wrong, but they did start to fade as I was getting closer to the end and realizing I was getting closer, because it was one of those games that when you get close to the end, you can kind of just tell you're like, I'm just close. Everything was just getting dreamlike in terms of visuals, and it just seemed like there was an ending in place. And I got to say, dude, I was pretty sad.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, very gut-wrenching ending. And I'm still fucking thinking about it, dude.
Wow. Tell me about the music.
Powerful stuff. That is one thing that never changed. The music is a 10 out of 10. It's an absolute masterpiece. I shared 2 tracks for Music Monday because I like it that much. And it's my kind of style, dude. It's very orchestral. It's got that nice, like, big blockbuster orchestral sound that I really dig, that you would find in something like, I don't know, Legends of the Fall or Road to Perdition, like some really kind of like quality drama.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Really, really good stuff. I mean, if you're not into like orchestral stuff, you probably won't like it. But I think that there's emotion that's within the music that's so powerful that it's really hard to ignore.
Yeah. Um, so the graphics kind of had like this very whimsical quality to them.
Hmm.
Talk about how that like worked with or against the game, and tell me about whether or not that was present in the cutscenes as well.
No, that's a really good question because it's something I thought about today. So graphics are really good. It's got a very, I don't know, sort of animated anime feel to it, where
Mm.
you can see that it looks like very hand drawn.
Looked
Kind of
almost like
reminds me of,
watercolor.
yeah, watercolor mixed with like Nino Kuni kind of vibes.
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to the show are familiar with how good that game looks. So it's kind of like, yeah, hand drawn watercolor esque kind of theme. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. Like what they did with Trico was just marvelous. Like having all these feathers literally get ruffled, by the
Mm.
way. Like the whole phrase, like your feathers are ruffled, that really happens with Trico when there are guards around and he's defending you. So I thought that was pretty amazing. But
Mm.
the way that the controls work with the visuals don't really sync up. And that's, I think, where there's a problem. So when you're moving the boy, he looks amazing in animation, but
Yeah.
it seems like there's a slight lag to what you're doing, what you're inputting versus what you're seeing on screen. And I think that was pretty jarring, to say the least.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
cutscenes were pretty much the same. It was like transitioning from gameplay to cutscene, like where you get those games that transition very well.
Mm-hmm.
They don't change. Like it's not like the cutscenes are full CGI, totally different art style. It's the same thing. It's just transitioned very well. So no complaints there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but overall, I think it had a very dreamlike quality, which was great. But yeah, if it could have been synced better with movement and input, I think it really would have earned more of a 10 out of 10 versus, I guess, I'd have to say like a 6.
So was it like just lag, like you would press a direction and it would take a second, or was it just not intuitive?
Uh, a bit of both.
Yeah.
The lag was not like insanely noticeable, but after spending a good amount of time with the game, it's very slight. It's only something that people that probably use gaming mice would know about, or anybody that just has a little bit of extra intuition on input lag
Mm-hmm.
would notice that there's just a very slight lack of response with how it's synced up with the animation. But I gotta hand it to it. The visuals, man, they really are stunning. It's a joy to look at. There are moments where you get to excuse me, cliffs,
Mm-hmm.
and you see just beautiful architecture, um, beautiful white birds flying down below you, and it definitely creates a sense of height as well. The more you ascend with Trico, the more terrified you become because
Really?
there are some. Oh yeah, dude, this game literally takes place like what seems to be hundreds of miles up,
Wow.
and it's quite interesting, and it's an aspect of the game that I'm still trying to understand and still trying to frame. And it's that a lot of what you do is very high up in the air, and it
Mm.
makes the gameplay actually pretty nerve-wracking. There's a lot of tightrope sequences, quite literally, where you're walking across like a rope
Yeah.
and you're balancing hundreds of miles in the air,
Yeah.
and you're having to move like a stained glass eye-looking object so Trico can pass forward. So
Huh.
a lot of butthole clenching moments for sure, just to put it, bluntly.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, it's interesting, man. The gameplay is very much platforming. It's platforming. It's feeding barrels to Trico, occasionally knocking over a guard,
And
jumping on Trico.
I assume that those barrels are full of children,
Hmm.
pureed kids.
Yeah, like liquid gelled children. It's fucking
Ah,
terrifying when you find out later on in the game that the whole time you thought you were feeding something quite innocent to Trico with butterflies flying around the barrel, but it turns out they were just sacrificed children
oh God.
stuffed in a barrel. So that was pretty disturbing.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what
Looking
the
back on it, like seriously, looking
what the
back on it,
fuck?
I'm just like, what was I doing? But I was innocent. I didn't know until the very end of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got, dude.
I guess you did.
But yeah, I honestly, man, I wish the gameplay was just more compelling.
Yeah.
The bond that's created between the two of you definitely grows stronger. I really appreciated that, I guess, concept, because I've never played a game where you are literally just, growing and nurturing a bond between you and this sort of animal-like creature.
Right.
So that
Right.
was special and implemented well. But god damn, dude, I just wish the controls were better. I wish that Trico was more responsive. And again, I understand the relationship. I understand the realism. But if they could have just added just a little bit more of responsiveness, it probably would have made me rate the game a 10 out of 10 versus a 9.
Well, 9 is still like, really respectable.
Yeah, and I would say it's because of the story saved it.
Right.
The story saved this game from being a game that I would probably never play again. Because right when the game, I would say probably about an hour before the game ended, I was like, I cannot wait to delete this game. Which is still just appalling in a way for me to say that now, considering that my wife's cousin had asked me some time ago, what do I want for Christmas? And I told her I'd like the Last Guardian art book, please. And I told her that last night after finishing the game.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, the game has hit me that hard, dude, and I will absolutely play it again. I will muscle through the bad controls, and I just want to be back with Trico, dude.
So how much time did you end up putting into this game before you finish it?
A very good question. So this is something that you and I tossed around for a while. Most of the walkthroughs that I was watching on YouTube, which, mind you, this is important to note here, I ended up using a walkthrough on YouTube, I would say the majority of the game, and I don't feel ashamed for it. The reason why is because I was obviously very frustrated with the game in general. I just felt like I never knew where I was going. The puzzles are actually pretty fucking challenging. There are moments where I literally just had absolutely no idea what to do. And when I looked it up, I was just like, yep, I would have never figured that out. It's not like Fallen Order where you're like, oh, I should have just hit something with a lightsaber.
Right.
That's not happening. You kind of almost need one. And I was not alone in this because a lot of people in the comments were like, if it wasn't for this walkthrough, I would have tabled the game.
Really?
So that was refreshing to see. But oh gosh, where was I going with this?
The length, the overall.
Oh, right. Yes, the length. So the walkthroughs were showing or tricking me into thinking the game was only 5 hours, but I forgot to factor in that all of these videos, these guys are editing out the times that they die. Right. They're editing out breaks. So everything was clipped together, and I didn't realize until I actually saw it happening on the screen in front of me. And I was like, okay, this game's definitely not 5 hours. So, because I was literally playing from like 11:30 on Sunday all the way up until like 6 p.m. And I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Why is it taking me this long to beat the game? And granted, I took a couple, cat breaks and snack breaks and lunch and all that. But I was pretty diligent and disciplined with how I was spending my time with this.
Right.
And I went to howlongtobeat.com after I beat the game. And on average, it's about 12 to 15 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it took me so long.
All right. All right.
But a fair length. I don't know if I would have wanted it to be longer. Definitely not longer. Shorter, maybe 10 hours would have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
But 12 to 15, I suppose it was enough to tell the story properly.
Yeah. All right. What else you got to add for this? Anything?
Let's see. We covered gameplay, sound, music, story. I guess like final thoughts. If you're into a game that has a powerful story, you need to play this game. Take everything that I've said about the controls, throw it out the window. You're gonna have to have some patience going in because they will drive you nuts unless you can figure out a way to just kind of get past them a little bit more easily. But I doubt it. If you're a regular human like me, you're gonna get frustrated. But I hope that you stick with it because of the story. Would I play it again? Yes, but I probably wouldn't play it for like another year or so. It's one of those games that doesn't have a strong replay value unless you're looking for just to experience that story again.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like hearing you kind of go from one end of the spectrum about this game to the other, and knowing that I have a copy that has gone largely untouched. It makes me want to kind of break it out and give it another shot. And I just remember like that first area just being so obtuse and Trico being a fucking stubborn cat dragon, like you said
Yeah.
last week. And I'm like, I don't know if this is something I really want to dive into, but hearing that 180 on the story being that powerful, even now knowing the ending of the game essentially and the spoilers and all that, it still sounds like it would be something that would probably resonate.
Yeah, and I want to mention too, and I might have mentioned this before, but the game is told and almost narrated at times, well, it is narrated at times by an older version, an adult version of the boy that you play. So it's essentially like a flashback story. So you're reliving a flashback from the older version of the boy that you play.
Interesting. Okay.
So there are segments of the game where you might toss a barrel or you might not know what you're doing, and you hear the adult voice come through in Japanese with subtitles saying, I couldn't figure out how to get Trico to move forward, so I had to go and search for more barrels.
Interesting.
And those little narrated segments definitely added to the experience.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to give it some thought. There's just so much on my plate right now with, Fallen Order and of course, Cyberpunk comes out this week, just a couple days. So, I think it's going to be a while before I really turn on my PlayStation again, but it's definitely a game that I've wanted to put some time into. So, I'm glad to hear that it redeemed itself. I think that's important. It's never a good conversation when a game just sucks,
Yeah. I mean, I got to say I'm relieved to have completed it because it was pretty daunting of a game. And I'm very excited to move on to new things. And hey, another game beat for the books, quite literally.
Another one for the books. That game got beat. Nice work, man.
Thanks.
So
only took me like 5 months.
That's all right, man.
Yeah, actually, it's more like a couple weeks.
It's about the journey, not the race,
That's true.
So, let's just give a quick shout out to the chat room on Twitch there, Lost Monkey, Saikoro. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate you guys being a part of the conversation today. And
to Shawshank, nice.
It wouldn't be an evening on Twitch without Saikoro dropping a Shawshank Redemption reference.
Yeah, you can always rely on Damien for classic film references.
Absolutely. Oh man, so I've been just putting in some serious work on Fallen Order lately, and man, what a fun fucking game. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I don't know how much more I have to go, but the pacing of this game feels very much like a Star Wars movie. And really, if you stop and think about it, the story is identical to the Star Wars films too. There's not going to be a lot of room for surprise. If you've seen any of the Star Wars films, you get a handle for what's going on. You have a Jedi. He's trying to stop the evil empire. There's a moment where he's encountered by the dark side. He has to go through a mental trial and tribulation, and I'm sure ultimately he'll probably come out on top, although I haven't quite gotten to that part yet. And so I'm thinking I'm probably about anywhere from halfway to 2/3 through the game.
Okay.
Just ballpark guess. And Saikoro just asked me what part I'm on, and I want to be vague because I know Will is planning on playing this game next. So I'll just say that I am on the ice planet, and I'll leave it at that because I think that's not really much of a spoiler. You have different worlds that you're going to, and each world has very distinct feeling, very distinct vibe to it, and just the environment and the sounds that you hear are just, I talked about it last week. It just feels wholly like part of the Star Wars universe. Even like when your ship is landing and it does that horizontal wipe, where you go from one scene to the next, like that is just classic George Lucas. And this has all those minor details that you don't really, when you're watching the movies, you don't think about it, but it's like it's part of what makes that thing special, So just a tremendous game, challenging. It is a very challenging game, but not absurdly so. There's been one boss battle that I've had quite a bit of trouble with that I finally cleared. And I'm not going to lie, when I finished it, I was like, fuck yeah. Getting all excited and stuff.
Hulk Hogan it.
Yeah, totally, man. And like, it was just like, it was one of those bosses that, I like struggled with. Like, I was really, really having a hard time, and I would fire it up. I'd play for a couple, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes or something, get frustrated, turn it off, play something else. I'd come back to it the next day, wash, rinse, repeat. I must have tried like 5 or 6 nights before I finally cleared this boss. So I fucking earned it. I earned that shit. And,
hell yeah, brother.
And I'm proud of that, because let's face facts. I suck at video games. So
same,
but the game doesn't like, I never once felt punished, like, and I think that's important. Because a game should like try and, I think if you're going to be like going through a difficult part, I think the game should teach you, and give you an idea of what you've done wrong, whether it's maybe not memorizing a pattern, maybe it's not blocking enough, maybe it's not using your powers to your full advantage. Whatever the case is, I don't think a game should ever punish you for failure. And I don't feel that this game truly does, but it does make you work for it. And I appreciate that. But yeah, man, like I'm really enjoying this, and like I know the game didn't come out in 2020, but so far this has been like one of the best games I've played this year.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it's just fun. It's just fun,
That's what we need right now. More fun games. I was thinking about it when I had finished The Last Guardian, because it wasn't a fun game.
Right.
You're experiencing a story through gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I really actually had a strong craving for Metal Gear Rising and Bayonetta and Vanquish and all these like high octane action games, because they're just more gamey. They're more arcade-ish. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I'm craving. So I think Fallen Order is going to be a nice little fit.
Yeah. I really think you're going to enjoy it, especially with your love for those types of games. And, this is something that I think we wanted to kind of discuss as well, too, because there's been a lot of chatter in our Discord room about the game being a quote unquote Souls-like. And, everybody that mentions that immediately is like, well, Drew, if you like Fallen Order, you're going to love Dark Souls. And the answer, you like my segue there, right?
You lay up, pass you the ball.
Yeah. No, I won't. I'm not going to like Dark Souls. Like, let's just fucking get this out of the way, guys. Like,
oh my God, that was the best answer ever. No, I won't.
Like, I've played it. All right. Now, I admit I did not play a lot of it, but I played enough of it to know that I don't want any part of it. And that's it. Like, I don't like that kind of setting. I don't like that style of like, I don't think I didn't like the game. Just
no,
flat
completely
out,
fair.
But really it boils, like, I think the biggest part of what I didn't like about it is the setting. Like, I don't like, medieval. I really don't. And like, there are exceptions where I'll kind of dip my toes into that every now and then. Like, there's a game on Game Pass that I just started playing called, Yes, Your Grace, I think it was. But it's like a kingdom management game. It's not like a fucking fight the dragons game, right? and like that's not what I'm into. Like, I grew up in a household where like my mom was like super into that stuff, and then
fantasy,
and like, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I never was, and then I finally think like I'm starting to get away with it, and then I from it, and then I start dating a girl who's like completely into it, and like she's going to the Renaissance fairs and shit.
Oh,
well,
God.
that was a disaster. We broke up. And then when finally I stopped seeing this girl, and my mom's like, I think I'm going to start doing Renaissance fairs. I'm like,
oh my God.
So for like the first 26 years of my life, I couldn't get away from this shit. And like, I want to be in
fantasy.
I want to be in a spaceship. Like, just put me in a spaceship. Give me the same story. You can give me the same fucking story. It's like the same thing I say about Dragon Age. Like, everybody's like, well, you like Mass Effect, you love Dragon Age. No, I would not.
Yeah, you got to appreciate those strong suggestions from friends, right? Because sometimes they can be really good, and sometimes you're just like, you know what, dude? Like, can you like not? Because I'm pretty sure that I'm all right with this one. And
Yeah.
then sometimes they just don't stop, and you're just like, you know what, man? I'm gonna leave.
Yep.
uh, and we're not gonna make any more suggestions anymore. No, but I understand, man. The Souls references are getting a little bit tired and worn out, right?
And
I think
it's
at
not
this
just our
point we're kind of
Discord.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's the whole gaming community. I mean, there's a large culture of Souls fans, right, and
Yeah.
Soulsborne fans, the ones that like Bloodborne as well, and I respect that. But I think that it's gone on a little bit too long. I think we've all kind of we've already had that drink, you know, and we've kind of put the horse, you know, in front of the cart, you know, one too
Yeah.
many times, and boiled the ocean and put wood behind the arrow, and you know, now we're just boiling everything.
All right. Listen, man. We have to have a talk about your phrases here. your
The
your
jargon.
cannonball into the Atlantic or whatever the fuck it was you said to me earlier.
Yeah. We don't want to cannonball into the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, but no, it's really, I think we've exhausted it, right? There's room to raise those arguments. There's room to raise those discussions and make those comparisons, but it's used far too often. And quite frankly, as somebody coming from the series as a huge fan, I'm getting a little bit, you know, tired of it. It's almost annoying. Sorry, Patrick, but I gotta call you out there, man. I respect it, but you know, it's just I don't think that it's necessary for as many titles as we want to kind of tie it to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Just quick in the chat, you know, Saikoro's talking about the warp to planet intro in Fallen Order, and he agrees that it's gorgeous. He compares it to Destiny, but says Destiny is gorgeous with that, but not like Fallen Order, and I agree. The warp, which was really a loading screen in Destiny, was always quite pretty, but in Fallen Order, like, you're getting that cockpit view of going to light speed or Lost Monkey, correct me here, it's hyperspace. I feel like I'm drawing a blank right now. You know, that when you go into that faster than light travel, it's just stars streaming in front of you. It's wonderful. And then there's like this just lovely conversation with your other crewmates that just makes everything feel so organic. It's awesome. Lost Monkey says Fallen Order, what an amazing game, great story. Timeline is after episode 3 and before Solo. See here, and Saikoro's recommending that we dive into Titanfall 2 at some point. Says absolutely, will love Sekiro. Fallen Order is right up his alley. So, you know, and to kind of circle back to the Souls-like thing, like, Sekiro is a game that I would like to play because of its setting. You know, I am a huge fan of, you know, feudal Japan and samurai and ninjas and all that kind of stuff. Tenchu was just that game was just mind-blowing when that game came out. So I'm into that, and I'm definitely interested in playing that game. But I think the comparisons to, Dark Souls kind of soured me on it a little bit. And then hearing about the difficulty level, it's just like, I just don't have time to get pissed off at a video game. There are too many games in my backlog that I need to play. And if a game is going to make me angry, I just don't have time for it. It's just not worth it.
Well, the thing with Sekiro is, you know, it's a masterful game, you know, like I've said before, but man, is it torturous. Excruciatingly hard. And yes, you can get past it, and that's where you're going to get people chiming in, is like offering up all these suggestions, and I get it. But at the end of the day, the game's challenging as shit.
Right.
And you really need to, like, get good. I don't want to use damn it, I said it. Damn it. It's so hard to not say it.
That's heartbreaking.
Well, Patrick will at least appreciate that after my little dig earlier. So. Love you, Patrick. But no, seriously, you have to pay attention in that game. You have to work. You have to, like, try hard. You cannot just, you know, melt your way through that game. You have to be skilled. You have to work on those skills.
Right.
And yeah, it pays off, and it feels goddamn amazing when you beat somebody like a boss.
Yeah.
But I think that's a game that you'd want to tread lightly with.
Yeah. I agree based on everything that I've heard about it. So I don't know if I'll ever play it. Just my backlog is vast, and there are games that I've already been yelled at for not playing. So I just have to kind of prioritize those. But right now, my goal is to try to finish up Fallen Order as soon as I can. I would love to kind of circle back to some of the planets and do some more exploring now that I have more powers and the ability to get to areas that I could not get to before. Because like I remember when I first started the game, one of the first things I tried to do was go someplace that I shouldn't have gone. I'm like, ooh, what's over here? Die. Okay, let's try this again. Let's try to get through this. Can I jump here? Dead. Can I jump there? Dead. And it was just that kind of cycle of like, that gamer mentality. It's like, I know something is there. I know I can have it eventually. I want it now. And I really needed to kind of step back and just follow the story, because you start unlocking powers as you go that will enable you to get to those areas eventually. But some of them are the kinds of things that you have to intentionally go back to versus the story takes you back there. And so like just the starting planet that you go to is a prime example of that. I don't know if I'm going back to it or not. No spoilers from the chat room, please. Lost Monkey just said he spent about 25 hours in Fallen Order, unlocked pretty much everything. And I don't know. I don't recall there being a gameplay counter in there. I wish the Xbox had one. I don't know how much time I put into it, but it's been a lot. And, when I sit down to play it, I'll usually put down at least an hour, if not 2 or 3 in a play session. So it's a great game, but Cyberpunk is coming out in 3 days, and that shit's going to get installed immediately. And I'm looking forward to it. And, there's some reviews out. I've only done some glancing, and so far it hasn't been too positive, but also the day one patch has not hit either. So I'm kind of curious to see what that's going to do.
Yeah, I checked out some reviews briefly today, and it's shaping up to be pretty good so far.
Have the reviews been good? I've only seen a couple, and they weren't very glowing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're glowing, but they're positive.
Okay.
I watched one from IGN, and I skipped around a little bit just because I wanted to see the verdict. But I think they gave it like an 8, something like that.
That's fine by me. I'll take an 8.
And yeah, but overall, from what I've seen, which is very little, like you, it's positive. Yeah. So it'll probably shape up to be something pretty special. It's just so early.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, The Witcher 3 was kind of had a bit of a rocky start, and through patches, CD Projekt Red turned it into this masterpiece that it is. So
I could see that. I'm unaware of that particular history.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that The Witcher 3 definitely caught on, and it took some time, because I remember one of my buddies was playing it day one, and I felt like no one else was at the time. And then like a couple of years later, everybody wouldn't shut up about it.
Really? So, okay.
Yeah. So that probably is correct, kind of historically.
Interesting. I don't know too much about that game. Again, setting. So
Ren Fair.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of that game, dude. And I know Saikoro is probably going to convince me to play it, but I am afraid of games that are that large.
I'm pretty sure Lost Monkey played it too, so he might talk you into it.
He did play it, and I give a lot of credit and respect to the people that have decided to conquer that game and sort of endure its largeness, because man, is that game large.
So Lost Monkey says he's waiting for a nude mod for Cyberpunk. I don't know if you're gonna have to wait. I'm pretty sure the game has nudity in it, bro.
Cyberpunk butts.
Oh god, that if I wasn't gonna name this The Last Guardian review, Cyberpunk butts would be a great show title. I'm trying to get that SEO hits, man. I'm trying to get those hits on the podcast. My gosh. So moving on to our next topic, you've been trying to secure a Nintendo Switch. Tell me about that.
Secretly, yeah, just kind of in a weird way, I've been kind of scoping out the availability on this thing, because I don't regret getting rid of it. I sort of do now, because it's impossible to find, except for the Switch Lite. The Switch Lite is fairly readily available at places like Best Buy, but I'm looking for a gray dock version classic Switch,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to play it on the big screen.
Sure.
And I've been craving Bayonetta 2. I've been craving some of the games that I never got around to, like Astral Chain. And I just want one again. I think it's sort of coming up to being time for me to acquire one. So did some light research, and from what I gathered, it's a pandemic, man.
Yeah.
Quarantine has caused a lot of folks to obviously capitalize on gaming and media and content at home. And that is, from what I can see, the ultimate reason why this console is near impossible to find right now.
Yeah. It's
You can find it on Amazon, but they're crazy, packs that you don't want with cases that you didn't ask for.
mm-hmm.
And they're priced at $550, $600 and whatever.
Jesus,
So it's
$600 for a Switch.
yeah, so it's the kind of stuff that's happening with PS5, except not as extreme as like 18 grand.
Wow.
So I don't know, man. If anybody listening to the show, if you happen to see a $300 gray Switch, the dock original version, please let me know, because I might scoop that up sooner than later.
Very nice. Very nice. I'll keep an eye out for you too, man. I have a buddy who just picked up one recently, and I think he ended up having to get like a bundle. I don't think it was just a straight, just the Nintendo Switch. I think it came with like 2 or 3 games. I don't know where he got it. I would guess GameStop if I had to choose. So
probably, yeah.
So I mean, are you opposed to doing a bundle like that?
I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
The first time I got it, it came with Mario Kart 8, but that wasn't a bundle. It was like a digital download code, and it was still priced at $300. So
interesting.
If the bundle was, say, I don't know, like $350, $400, and
That's
it came
not
with
bad.
some really good incentives, then maybe.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'm just looking for a straight up console only, $300 flat plus tax, and that way I can, get Bayonetta 2 again. It's a pain in the ass, man, that game is a Nintendo exclusive, but I adore that series, and I owe it to myself to finish 2.
Yeah. And you have that game digitally, right? So you'll just be able to sign right in and recover.
Fortunately, I do not.
Interesting.
Now, the only games I have digital were The Stillness of the Wind and Astral Chain. Everything else was physical. So I'd have to rebuy it.
Interesting. That's unfortunate, man. But
no, it's fine. I mean, even if my save file is somehow gone too and it's not in the cloud or whatever, I don't care. I'll start that game over.
Right. Fair enough. All right. So bear with me just a second here. I'm taking care of some stuff in the chat, or at least I'm trying to.
Yep. Do your thing, man.
Oh man. So
see
anyway,
what's going on there.
Yeah. So this is fun. All right. There we go.
First for us.
Yeah, it is. Hey, we made it.
Yeah. After what, 104, 105 episodes?
105 episodes, we had our first spam. Now I can't get rid of this fucking pop-up. All right, there we go. So anyway, I've been playing, as I said before, Fallen Order, and one of the things that I've enjoyed with the Series X up to this point has been the quick resume. I've spoken about it quite a bit, but I'm noticing, and I don't know if this is just something that has been exacerbated by recent patches or what the case is, the quick resume has become less and less reliable, and I'm finding that Fallen Order and other games are frequently crashing when I'm trying to go back into them after a reboot. If I'll leave my system in standby mode, which I've been doing since day one, and I've never really had any issues with it. And then I'll come back into a paused game. And like the other night, I took a screenshot of it and I posted it on Twitter. The game said there was a profile switch and the game needs to be restarted. But I'm the only profile on the fucking system, so like I don't know what's going on, It was
weird.
It was weird. Yeah. Anyway.
Huh.
So I don't know. I've heard other people kind of talk about there being some issues with the quick resume. It's been inconsistent. I know Microsoft has said that it's not quite where they want it to be. Hopefully they can fix it. I don't know if it's something that, maybe EA is going to have to kind of step in and reprogram for the game, because, they're not going to do that shit. And hopefully going on, forward, they'll be able to kind of correct it and, fix it up with some patches, and hopefully it'll work better, because it's an awesome, awesome feature when it works properly,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's I'm hearing a lot of interesting sort of weird,
Mm.
uh, I guess fumbles that these consoles are suffering from, startup time issues,
Yeah, yeah,
lag, like discs not working,
yeah.
games that were supposed to be compatible in the
Well,
PS5, and people getting messages that they're not.
yeah, I mean, you're always going to have like some outliers, you know, with people like showing that their disk drives are not working. I feel like now the loudest people tend to be the ones that are having issues, right? When I saw that some people were having issues with their disk drive for their Xbox, the first thing I did was I grabbed a game that I had 2 copies of, popped it in, and it worked fine. I'm like, all right, cool, one less problem to worry about. And then I saw the thing where people were fucking vaping into their Xboxes, and I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It never became one. So it's people like to spread bad news.
Yep.
I outside of the issues that I'm having with Quick Resume, I still fucking love the system, you
Hmm.
know? But yeah, it's definitely something that they need to work on.
No, I think you're right, dude. Whenever I read about these complaints and these issues that pop up every single year,
Mm.
um, well, I shouldn't say every year, but every time we have a new console, I always kind of just take them with a grain of salt because I've been a consumer for 35 years, I guess. And I just have had very, very little issues with electronics, like especially with consoles.
Hmm.
I mean, I've probably had a few here and there, but when I read about stuff, I'm like, this has never happened to me
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that feels like if I had a PS5, I probably wouldn't be suffering from any issues.
Hmm.
And I know that sounds like absolutely like snobbish, but it's just like that's just been my history.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people don't take care of their shit, but I've seen some people not take care of their stuff sometimes,
Yeah.
and they do like just silly things.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and that's just a fact. I've seen people with consoles on the floor.
Hmm.
I've seen people with consoles that are clogged up with dust bunnies for days.
Hmm.
And they're just like, yeah, this thing like heats up and it sounds like it's gonna take off. I'm like, dude, look at it.
Yeah.
Get a fucking vacuum for God's sake. So, there are things I've seen. I wouldn't say that that's going to contribute to what we're seeing here.
Yep.
But I think that these issues are probably pretty few and far between considering the amount of consoles that have actually been distributed.
I think so, and I hope so. I'm confident that the issues that I'm having can be patched. I don't think it's hardware,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
we'll
I think
see.
so too.
So just real quick to hit up the chat room. Pencilburn, thank you for tuning in. The other day I randomly started listening to your pods, picked a random episode, then I hear you talking about me and my bro, the flamethrower. I'm trying to think of which episode that might have been.
Yeah, I'm not sure. To be quite frank, I have no idea who you are. But hello, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you joining us. And if you enjoy the discussion, swing on by our Discord room. I just threw link barfs in there. So go ahead and feel free to click on that Discord room. Battlefield. Okay, Battlefield.
I think I know who it is.
Yep. So that's starting to make a little more sense. I have not participated in Battlefield games with you guys, but yeah,
it's a blast. It's a blast. We have a ton of fun.
No, it's not. I'm just gonna no.
Hey, respect. You're giving me the soul's answer. I respect that.
Yeah, I just gotta stand up for myself a little bit more often. Will, I'm just gonna be like, nope, not fun.
Hey, you know what? No is a complete sentence.
Yes.
So it feels pretty good, right? Like when you tell somebody no.
Yes.
Especially when it's like something that you really just wouldn't ever say no to. Like, hey, do you want to come by today?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, quarantine, right? That's a valid argument.
It gives us more of a reason to say it.
Yeah.
You better enjoy it while it lasts.
Yep. So Pencilburn, you mentioned the volume of the PS5 being pretty quiet. Are you working with a digital or disc version? I'm kind of curious to hear about difference between those two. And lost. Okay, so you're loading off a disc. Yeah. So I mean that's good to hear that it's quieter. I know a lot of people were talking about the PS4 Pro being like a fucking jet engine going off when that started up, and like I have a original PS4. I haven't really noticed anything too crazy with the volume of it, but maybe I'm just not paying attention. So
Yeah, apparently that was actually like a real legitimate issue. That
yeah.
was not one to be taken with a grain of salt. I thought that it was
Mm-hmm.
at first, but it turns out I think there were actually two models of the Pro. There was the first one that was really loud, and then the second one apparently improved it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but quite common when people would play games that were native 4K and even
Mm.
upscaled 4K that were really demanding. They made that thing loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a little bit disappointing, but I guess it depends on the setup, right? And if you're gaming with a gaming headset, you're probably not going to really notice it that much.
Yeah, I think the thing that would concern me the most is why is the system that loud? You know, is it just because it is, or because the heat sink needs to be cleaned? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, fans are fans, right? You
Yeah.
know, you can have a custom PC. You're probably going to hear the fans, and people will install the silent ones. But at the end of the day,
Mm.
you're likely to hear them, and it's normal. You know, if
Yeah.
a game is being asked to do a lot, then those things are going to turn on, and they're meant to cool it. So
Exactly. I gotta say, like the Series X has just been whisper quiet. I've had no issues with that. I hardly even notice it's on. I do have it in my IKEA cube, and you know, every once in a while, if I'm playing a game that's like really pushing the graphics, I'll go over and just kind of feel in there, because like I'm not really satisfied with the way the airflow is. I feel like it should just be open, but I don't have that option. But so far, it's been pretty good. You know, I haven't had any issues where like the heat is causing it to crash, at least none that I'm aware of.
it's great.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad that it's holding up. I mean, it should. I mean, look at it.
Mm.
You know that thing should not be loud. It's encased. It's encapsulated
Yeah.
in a box.
And I mean, it's designed for, you know, to intake air from underneath. Cool air comes in from the bottom and rises up through the system and expels as hot air. So
Hmm.
it's working as it should, and kind of like a regular PC would as well.
I remember a lot of folks when they first showed the system, they thought that that green emblem was actually a light, but it's just a green like piece of plastic, right?
Yeah, but it's clever the way it's painted, because it's on the bottom half of that piece of plastic. So you have, dozens of holes in the top of it, and
Hmm.
the plastic is maybe like, we'll say like a quarter-inch thick, if that.
Sure.
Um, the top half is black, the bottom half is green. So you kind of get like that. It gives it the illusion of being illuminated, but it's not.
I heard about that. Yeah, I think it's cool, dude.
It's
I
nice.
like that. I like the Xbox green, right? Like they have a
Mm,
very specific green, and you know, there's really nothing else like it.
it is sexy. It is sexy. So, what do you say we hit the mailbag at this point? Hmm?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right, so we are heading on over to our Discord room. If you are in the Twitch chat, feel free to drop a question for us as well too. We'll do our best to answer them. Let's start out with Joe Donuts over in our Discord room. He says, "How do you both think that this year will be remembered for gaming? Will it be remembered at all? I feel like the big years are memorable because there are so many good games, like 1998, or a few hugely important games, 96 to 2001. I consider 2019 a great year for games, even if not everyone agreed. But 2020 has been pretty standard and unexciting. All the best games seem to come out with a lot of caveats outside of Hades."
Mm. Yeah, when I think of this year and I think of new,
Mm,
I do think of Demon Souls for PS5, and I think of Hades, and that's about it.
mm,
And I'm sure there's more that I've forgotten about from earlier in the year, but I think my answer to this is pretty simple. COVID really changed a lot of the dynamics of how we game to this year. And
yes.
I think for me and a lot of other folks, we kind of took a step back and did an analysis on our backlogs
Hmm.
and what games we were playing. We tried out new things that were calming to cope with the state of the world. And overall, I think it was a pretty interesting year for gaming, but certainly not, not exciting. Like you say, Joe, it's a pretty unexciting year because of, geez, the pandemic. It really
Yeah.
shaped the way that we chose to sit down with games.
I feel like I didn't spend nearly as much time with my backlog as I had originally planned to. With the pandemic, it was in a way exciting to hear that not that many games that I was expecting to come out were going to. But then, like, I found like all these indie games on Game Pass and ended up playing those instead, and it really filled up a lot of my time. I came into 2020 with a goal of beating 12 games, and by like March, I had abandoned that because I just thought it was impossible. I chose Octopath Traveler as my first game to play of
Yeah.
2020. And like, I put a lot of time into it, but I was just like, felt like I was getting nowhere. And then, Doom Eternal was the first game that I think came out this year that I had dove into. And, I've gone on record as saying that I struggled with that game, in more than one way. I struggled with the difficulty. I struggled with the stress. That game came out when we were going into quarantine, and my mind was not in a good place, and Doom Eternal did not help that. So, I've kind of been around the block with that game in more than different, multiple mindsets. But then you have a game like Spiritfarer, which caught me completely off guard and ended up being a tremendous experience. So that's a game that I might not have played otherwise, but I would say that I think overall, if you were looking for 2020 to be a blockbuster year for gaming, yeah, I don't think it is. I gotta say, Will, that lowering of the desk is much less smooth than it is normally.
Yeah, I'm not at my electronic one. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. 2020 just ended up being kind of just a weird year. I mean, just think about the console launches and how uneventful they were. How little we knew about the PS5 until, October.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also the rest of the year, or the beginning rather, I felt like I was slogging my way through Final Fantasy Remake.
Yeah.
Which just seemed to take an eternity. So
Right.
overall, man, it's just a really strange year.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hopeful that 2021 will be overall better. I mean, not just for society in general, but for gaming,
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen. And don't forget too, we do have the Game Awards coming up soon. I'm not sure what the date is, but it's within the next couple weeks. And, that is going to be kind of filling a void that E3 couldn't fill this year. You're going to get trailers. You're going to get, some hype. It's going to be different because there's no crowd. But I think that Jeff Keighley is definitely trying to make it a newsworthy event more than just for what the awards are.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be interesting. And I think to answer that point too about next year, I think we do have a lot to look forward to. At least we have to hope so. Because you're right, there isn't really a lot, that's concrete that we could say, okay, God of War's next year.
Right.
And all these other big titles, we just have to say, okay, let's just hope the pandemic kind of simmers down and we can get back to a state of normalcy with how these games are getting released.
Exactly. Next question comes from Scooby Diesel. Love that name. I think 2020.
It is fun.
I think 2020 will be remembered for obviously staying at home and boosting sales and making new gamers, specifically Nintendo with Animal Crossing, but also the fact that we saw stuff like Stadia, Luna, xCloud, along with PS5 and Series X. Game-wise, I'm not as sure. It depends also if Cyberpunk wins huge for fans or not. But stuff like VR making it big-ish and also making 2020 more impactful. IMO plus stuff like Final Fantasy Remake. So I mean that raises some good points. This kind of did seem like the year for innovation with cloud gaming. I have not tried Stadia or Luna, which Luna is Amazon's offering, but I have dabbled with xCloud. It's not for me, but the technology is super impressive, and I do think that. I think that a day is going to come where Xbox is going to be 100% cloud-based.
Sure. I could see that.
I
mean, honestly, I feel like I could see it with almost all consoles.
Yeah.
Eventually, at least. It's probably going to be a staggered approach. I don't think it's obviously not going to be all at the same time, but I mean, it's pretty clear that that's the direction that we're heading in. And I almost feel like PS5 is like, you know what, we're going to make this disc version look pregnant just to piss everybody off so they understand that this is the direction that we're moving in.
Yeah. Let's keep it from looking all sleek and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, physical games, like the days are numbered, full stop.
They really are.
And that breaks my heart as a collector, with one of two walls behind me filled, with games, but I get it. And I won't lie, like there is a convenience factor that I'm kind of feeling the crunch on with a game like Cyberpunk, because there's going to be days where I'm going to want to play it on my Xbox One versus my Series X. And you know, I having the physical copy isn't a huge big deal, but it's going to be like an extra step. I'm going to have to remember, okay, I got to take the disc out of the Series X and bring it over to the One X, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting when Scooby, you say there, but stuff like VR making it big-ish. That is interesting because I had the Oculus Quest, and now the Oculus Quest 2 is out, and it seems to be making it pretty big. No pun intended. But I feel like VR might make a pretty serious move in terms of making a sort of comeback, if you will. End of this year, moving into next, I think that we're going to see it finally take off the way that it should,
Right.
because there's a lot of potential there. With my short time with the Quest and my time with the Rift with Tom, there's absolutely potential.
Yeah, and Pencilburn says, you know, also we got Half-Life 3 in 2020, kinda. And I'm, you know, Half-Life Alyx is a game that I wanted to play so badly, but the barrier for entry to getting into that VR world is just not something that was within my means. You know, and that's, I think, going to be the ultimate key with VR, is making it affordable, making it a destination that's worth buying into, and giving people games that they want. Half-Life is a franchise that people want, but just having it being so limited to VR and exclusively VR, I think that it blocked a lot of people from playing it.
Squandering, to put it frankly.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with VR, right? Short and sweet version. It's either the Quest 2 for affordability and playability, or it's the complete opposite of the spectrum, which is, you know, $3,000 PC, Oculus Rift all decked out. Then you're experiencing what I call real VR. But, you know, are you willing to pay like 4Gs to make that happen? Probably not.
I have a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like a nice little extra payment on your mortgage, right? It's let me
Dude,
just pay a quick $4,000 off.
No, legit, that's like 3 months of my mortgage.
Yeah, for most people, dude. I mean, I would say the average mortgage is anywhere from $900 to $1,300, right? So,
I mean, that's generous, but yeah.
Yeah. So, you know.
Let's see here. Puxor asks, what is the most 2020 game you've played? That's an interesting game. Interesting way of putting it. It doesn't have to be released or played during 2020, just something that encapsulates the spirit of it. That's easy. Spiritfarer.
Yeah.
Spiritfarer, 100%. You know, that's a game that dealt with some really heavy topics, and at the same time was a very casual, laid-back experience that you can play at your own pace.
Okay. Short answer for me, definitely Shadow of the Colossus. For the sole reason that I was able to escape reality pretty easily and enjoy roaming around a desolate world alone, which is something that we can't do right now.
I will say that playing The Last of Us 2 in the middle of a pandemic with a cordyceps virus so,
probably not a great idea.
Just a little poignant, but
oh Jesus,
you know. But no, I would say Spiritfarer 100%. Let's see here. Shannon Noxu says 2 questions. Every generation seems to bring a new or updated spin on multiplayer games. Does this generation evolve battle royales or go in a new, unforeseen direction? Any thoughts on that?
Let me just move the video here, and it will not let me move it. Stand by.
Yeah. All right. Well,
okay. It's just going to stay there. Fine. Little bastard video frame. Sometimes I like to reread these.
Yeah.
Updated spin on multiplayer games. Does this generation evolve better? Dude, I literally can't read it.
So it says every generation seems to bring a new or updated spin on multiplayer games. Does this generation evolve battle royales or go in a new, unforeseen direction? I'll throw it in Trello real quick for you as well too.
Okay.
Just in case that's easier for you.
I mean, I think if I were to answer that sort of off the cuff, I think that I'd like to see a little bit more of the classic multiplayer approach. I think the battle royale thing is already exhausting. I haven't dabbled with it that much, and I know it hasn't been around forever, but I feel like it's been around enough to where like I feel like I'm just kind of over it. When it comes to multiplayer, I like just more of that classic approach. Like, let's do some Team D. Let's do some capture the flag. Let's do those classic modes that we've all come to sort of show and love. That's the answer for my first part there. What is number 2 there? Should we see games become
shorter experiences?
Yeah, I would say ultimately yes. And it's really just because it's like what I said before, right? Games like Witcher 3 terrify me. And it's got nothing to do with the backlog, right? So if I didn't have one, I would still be frightened of that game just because it's such a time sink. And even if I had the time to sink into it, I just don't know if I'd want to, because I feel like it's too exhausting. Some of those games are just full of tasks that I don't really want to carry out. And I prefer games with a powerful story in a sort of 15 to 20 hour slot.
Yep. So, for the first question, I would say that they need to take battle royales and go in a completely opposite direction in order to revolutionize this. And I'm looking at like stuff like Tetris 99 or I can't remember the name of it, but it was that Super Mario Battle Royale that came out this year. Things like that are revolutionizing the way we look at battle royales versus something like PUBG or Fortnite, where it's just basically a bunch of people dropped into a play area and they shoot each other until one's left, right? I've heard a lot of people talking about the game. This is from the Xbox, I think it was a 360 era game called 1 versus 100. Do you remember that? It was that game show free multiplayer game, and it was like that was like the original battle royale. If you think about it.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, so like it was I'm trying to remember exactly how it played, but basically it's like you're answering like trivia questions, and it's either you or it was one person against 100 people, and the 100 people would eventually get whittled down through wrong answers. And I don't remember too much about the game. I had only played it a couple times, but it was fun. It was pretty cool.
Okay.
But there's ways to do it, and it doesn't have to involve, being a first person shooter or even a third person shooter. Just be creative, and break out of your shell. I think Fall Guys is a great example, as ridiculous and as stupid as it was. I know you hated that game. I know you hated it, but that was, I think, a clever spin on the Battle Royale format.
I will give it that. It took fun and ridiculousness, which I guess you could find in Fortnite, right? Which I think, is that considered a battle royale game?
Is,
I feel like a 50-year-old parent asking that. What is this Fortnite you guys keep loading up here?
Fork knife.
Yeah. Dude, I am so behind on like that relevant stuff.
Yeah.
Here I am wanting to play Bayonetta, which came out years ago. But yeah, I think it was a good approach. I will give it that. I wasn't great at it, and that's mainly why I hated it. Because I'm a child. But yeah, no, I don't know, man. I'd like to see some different takes on multiplayer. I guess I'm not too sure what I would want to see.
Right.
I would need time to really let that thought marinate.
Yeah.
And think of, something creative. And that's probably pretty hard to do, considering that we haven't seen much new besides here's your classic Team D, here's Battle Royale, and here's a co-op game every once in a while.
Right. Pencil Burn in the chat brings up Worms Battle Royale. Just came out. I haven't really seen much about it. I'm not really crazy about the Worms franchise as a whole, but I mean, I respect what they do. I think it's a simple, fun gameplay. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? Are you familiar with it?
I'm not, but I did have a thought, though, that just came to mind. Some games that implement multiplayer don't get played much. And I'm going to name a couple right now. Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 2, I believe, had multiplayer. The Last of Us Part 1 had multiplayer.
Yep.
What was the other one? Metal Gear Solid 4. There's some like obscure games out there that had multiplayer modes that I feel like people didn't really dabble with because it wasn't really quite the norm.
Yeah.
I think that some of those might be worth exploring again.
Doom Eternal did some crazy stuff with multiplayer, and I never had a chance to give it a shot because I didn't know anybody that was playing it on Xbox, but...
That's a really good point, Pencil. MGS5, which I absolutely loved that game, it did have a multiplayer mode, which was very interesting, and it's a shame that I didn't dabble with it. It was a a mode where people could invade your mother base and you could do the same, and they'd have to defend it from your invasion. And it was very, very different than what you find in those sort of multiplayer modes.
That's
So that's
interesting.
a good point.
Interesting. I wasn't
think
aware.
it's still online too.
Huh. That's cool. As far as Shannon's second question regarding the shorter experiences of games, I think we've already started to see that more frequently this year. I don't know if it's just this year in particular or overall, and just been kind of trending in that direction for a while. But I think I would like to see more games I would like to see more AAA games be shorter experiences, because I think that there's this compelling desire for AAA games to be 30 to 40 hours minimum. And that's just not necessary. I'm hearing people talking about the new Assassin's Creed game just being like absurdly huge. I think Joe was talking about the side quests in that game, forcing you to kind of like you finish one side quest and it opens up 4 more, and some of them are required to proceed with the main storyline. And it's just, it gets to a point where there's just extra padding, you know, like why do that to your players? You know, give them a concise, powerful story. Think about your favorite TV show that went on for 2, 3, 4 seasons, really strong storyline. They get canceled and then they get rebooted on another network, and how that magic is never really quite the same. That's kind of the way I feel about games that are just unnecessarily long. But indie games, for the most part, have it nailed. Not without, you know, some exceptions, but I think generally speaking, the experience with indie games tends to be that very concise, tight experience.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that's why God of War, which I know we've brought up so many times, but for good reason, and you'll understand why when you eventually play it. That game was around 20 to 25 hours, I want to say, and it's a AAA title. And that's so rare. I feel like with most AAAs, unless it's something like The Last of Us or you know, God of War, that's sitting around the sort of 20 to 30 hour marks. Everything else is 40 and above.
But I think like that's another good example right there. The Last of Us 1, I think, was a tremendous experience, and the storyline and the gameplay of that game was so tight that I felt like it was just the perfect length. But then The Last of Us 2 just wouldn't fucking end. Like it just went on and on and on, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it's like almost like a trend now. Like how long can we make this game, right? It's like that's what the devs are joking around about in the at the water cooler, right? You know.
Yeah. Let's see here. That's it for the mailbag. We did it.
Cool.
We did it.
We did it. We got through. We got through another show.
We did, man. So I guess this is a good point to kind of wrap things up for this evening. Did you have any other topics, any other things that you want to talk about before we sign off for the night?
SoundCloud.com/Will_Gear. You can also check out my YouTube. Gosh, I don't even know my YouTube link. I'll have to link that somewhere. But
it's going to be like gibberish. It's going to be like letters and numbers and like, yeah.
I think it's something like, I don't think it's Will_Gear. I don't think it is, but I'm hoping to grow that. I might even create a new one where I start doing a lot of behind the scenes videos. So we'll see. But yeah, check me out on SoundCloud, and investigate The Last Guardian.
All right, cool. And of course,
investigate is the key word.
Investigate.
Don't buy it yet.
I already own it, so. Oh, you're talking about everybody else.
For the general audience.
The general audience. Do your investigations.
Yes.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter at ScionStorm. Follow us on the web at www.WDGRPodcast.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram at WDGR Podcast. And we have a Discord room. And if you enjoy chatting with us in the Twitch room, or you want to just kind of chat about video games, we really encourage you to come on by. We have a wonderful community. It's very active. Tons of people in there. We'd love to have you stop on by, talk about video games with us. It's a great time. So look for that link in the show notes. It's also in the Twitch page. And, if you can't find it, just shoot me an email or mention on Twitter at ScionStorm. I'll get you a link for the page there. So that's going to do it, man. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you to our Twitch stream for joining us tonight. You guys made this a fun show. We really appreciate you being a part of it. And that's it. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.